We are back on the Rational Boomer podcast. Hopefully, your day is going well. It is Thursday. We're coming off a live yesterday, and we have a guest on Zoom today, the more normal podcast, and it is Will from Georgia. He was on the live for a bit too last night, so it's good to get him here and we can talk one on one about some of the absolute fucking crazy shit going on. I mean, every day it seems like something weirder happens. How you doing, Will? Thanks for coming by.
It's just fun. Yeah, it's good talking. Like, yeah, it's just every day. It's a nonstop, and I think it's the fire hose they keep hitting us with to kind of wear us down. That's the hardest thing right
Yeah, it
now because
really.
they know that.
No, I was just going to say that the whole Pete Hegseth thing, the Republicans are trying so hard to dismiss it, to divert, to distract, and it's just not going away. It just keeps getting worse. He did a chat and an unsecured app. That was probably the largest security breach in the history of this country. I think that's pretty bad. Then we find out he had another one with his Signal chats. And then we find out he's going to meetings with his brother and his wife. Now we're hearing that he was on an unsecured internet connection in his office. This fucker, you can't, all these people that want to save him can't because he's a fucking mess.
And right now he's reaction by going after everyone in the Pentagon, saying who's leaking, want to do polygraph tests, going after the ex-chairman. You know, we don't have a chairman, the joint chief of staff right now, right? Because they
Right,
fired him. There's
right.
no one in charge of the military of the combined military right now. And he went after him saying, "What did you say? What did you say? What did you say?" Dude is losing it, and he's Secretary of Defense. And as we came on just a moment ago, I just saw this. The Pakistanis and the Indians, um, India government are about ready to saber rattle over Kashmir today because of an incident. And I want to remind everyone, they are nuclear powers, both of them, and we have no one in charge of of the Defense Department.
Right.
Hi, welcome to incompetency leads to extreme tragedy. I mean, it's not good. And
Well,
I mean, he. Go
you
ahead. I'm
make a
sorry.
good point. You can make a good point. We have no national security anymore. We have
Mhm.
nobody of any competency in charge of the Department of Defense. As you pointed out, the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff was fired. So we're at a loss here. And then when you hear about two big countries that have nuclear capabilities rattling sabers, this puts the world in a weird, scary situation.
Yeah, and but those are things you can't react to because you have chaos. And this guy
Right.
doesn't care about the Department of Defense or American defense overall. He's just trying to keep his, to use a line from a movie, his phony baloney job. That's
Yeah.
all it is to him. It's but with all these people, it's not about the job, it's about the title. It's not what they do, is that they have the title. That's it. These rich guys in the Commerce Secretary and Secretary of Treasury, they don't need the job. They just like the title. It makes them
Yeah.
feel good.
Well, it's funny that,
And
people gave Cory Booker shit about being performative with his 25-hour speech. The fact of the matter is, the Republicans for the last 10 years have been nothing but performative. There is no substance. Donald Trump
nope.
isn't a real president. Pete Hegseth isn't the director of the Department of Defense. They're just there to take pictures. So much so, we hear Pete Hegseth took some taxpayer money and put in a makeup room so he looked good on TV. This is the kind of unserious people we're dealing with.
And then like watching Jesse Dollemore is fun to watch because
Yeah,
honestly, he doesn't give a shit when he does
yeah,
his
I like
stuff.
them.
Yeah, I mean, he didn't last long in TikTok. You know why? Because they burned him because he didn't give a shit. But
Yeah.
he had a video of Trump walking around the White House, doddering around the White House, pointing and stuff. And why does all his security look wide and fat like him? Yeah, I can say it because I'm fat, so screw you. They all look like him. They're little short, dumpy guys with red ties. But they asked him, "Why are you walking around?" Oh, because I'm going to put in 200-foot flagpoles with American flags on both sides of the White House because we need that for 200 years. And Trump's going to pay for it. Yeah, you haven't paid for lunch in your life, dude. Okay, and why? See, that's what you're doing with not running the country, walking around the White House lawns to see how you can fuck with the grounds. And I don't think he knew what he was doing. I think he just said it off top of his head.
That's what
Because
these guys do when they get caught doing something wrong or stupid. They make up some bullshit excuse and then they double down and triple down until it's proved to be stupid or false or whatever. But I don't know if you've seen some of the decor in some of the rooms that have shown up on the press conferences, but it's just all this gaudy gold shit.
yeah,
It looks like a pimp's den. It doesn't look like a presidential office.
now let me make it clear. Pimps have better taste than Trump. Okay,
And
listen, they
smarter
dress
and
good
smarter.
and smarter. They dress better. They drive better cars. And they would never decorate themselves with all that gold. They wouldn't
Yeah,
do it.
that's
One,
right.
it costs money, and that's their money. And two, it looks stupid. And they don't want to attract attention to yourself if you're a criminal. But that being said,
Well,
um,
he actually his decor is better described as if you had a good old boy from Alabama that won the lottery and let him decorate his house. That's what Donald Trump does.
uh, and and then he was doddering. I was watching him walk. My knees are shot, and I will say I daughter. I mean, it's kind of hard. You try to move 1 foot forward, but I'm watching him. That's not looking good. And
Oh,
then when I looked through all this shit, courts turning on him. There was a report, the courts telling, "Hey, bring people home." They're ignoring it again. All this stuff is pushing on the economy, and we're going to talk about that private meeting, which worries me that the CEOs had with him. But all of a sudden, when all this weird shit happens and people are looking at it, all of a sudden there's that picture of Trump 2028 hat, and
yeah.
everyone
Yeah, I
goes
saw that.
fucking crazy, and everyone goes fucking crazy. Oh my god, he's gonna do it. This is a distraction. This is what they do. So everyone will look over here while he's sticking it to you over there. Come on, it's a joke, and it's also for the rubes. The rubes need to something's got to sell. I mean, come on, we know what this was. And I
Yeah,
saw that, and I saw a couple of people, going off on it. He can't do it. He can't stop. Just can stop. Okay, just stop. It's just you're doing exactly what he wants. You're
Donald
giving him what he
Trump
wants.
either will not be around in 2028, he will not survive to 2028, either politically, legally, or mortally.
Yeah,
Or if he does survive mortally, he won't necessarily be ambulatory. I mean, here's a guy that's not very healthy. We got 4 years of him doing whatever the fuck he wants. Yeah, he's not going to make it that long. I just don't see, frankly, I keep hearing these rumblings about Republicans um, looking harder at impeachment because of the disaster he is and how bad he's tearing down this country, and they know it's going to affect them in the next election, so they're
yeah.
getting concerned about it.
Well, also, and I just brought up a moment ago, and you brought it up on one of your videos earlier, and I went and read about it. Um, the head CEOs of Walmart was it Walmart, Home Depot, Target.
Target.
Who else was in that meeting? Um,
Those are the only three I saw, but then I heard there was four. It was probably
yeah,
somebody of a similar
yeah,
size, but they didn't show up to have fucking tea. They're
no, they
nervous.
sh- they showed up in a private meeting, no press, because that meant that there no one was going to kiss Trump's ass and tell him, dude, in about 2 to 3 weeks, there ain't going to be nothing in the houses because of this tariffs. We had
Right.
a 2 to 3 supply. Now it's going to go away. And here's the thing: Walmart. I remember when Walmart started to ramp up from Arkansas. You remember their slogan is that everything was a made in America bullshit, and they discovered it was made in China.
Yeah.
Okay, okay, everyone accepted that because here's the thing: Americans do not like to pay the full price for things they get. let's all face it. That's the truth. That's why we buy stuff from China because it's cheap to make over there, labor
Right.
wise. It's really cheap to make, and we're not talking about slave labor. It's really cheap to make over there and to ship it to the United States. That's why I hate these people keep talking about, well, we need to do this so we can get factories built. No one's going to pay the price for that. No
No.
one's going to pay the price to make toys like they do and all that. You guys don't get it. And this is an agreement, and they buy our shit. That's called trade,
Yeah.
economy. And now all these guys are who've been fucking around waiting for their tax cuts. Now they're finding out, oh, yeah, I've got to have a business to have a tax cut. Really? You think?
Yeah, and
And now what?
that tax cut is looking less likely as Republicans start getting nervous about cutting
Right.
Medicare, Medicaid, and Social Security. So they may not have an easy time of getting that tax cut passed. So these people who voted for Donald Trump, these big companies, they may
Yeah.
be in for winning nothing here because they
Yeah.
done fucked up. And they sat down with Donald Trump, and now this disaster is imminent. If the shelves are empty in 2 weeks, they're fucking out of business. I
And,
mean, they
and,
can't
and
make any
people
money.
and people are going to be pissed.
Yeah.
What are you going to, I mean, pissed. I mean, that's shortages. Here we're back again. I mean, trust me, as soon as you start running out of toilet paper, the shit's going to hit the fan, literally and figuratively. And that's going to be one of the things. And then you start talking about groceries. You're talking about food. How many people shop at Walmart? Walmart had pushed out so many small companies with their when they showed up in small towns.
Yeah.
What's going to happen? And then they're
It's going to
still
be
glossing it
devastating.
over. Yeah, they're still glossing it over. So what did Trump do? He backpedaled and then he front pedaled because he's afraid of his base. I don't know what he's no, he's afraid of not being right. He hates
Yeah.
someone said the word tariffs to him during the campaign because you need an economic plan. So they went with tariffs and he won't let it go, knowing it's a disaster. It's a disaster. Then the rest of the world. And the thing about it is, even if we got rid of the tariffs, I think the rest of the world just gonna leave them on there to fuck with us, to fuck with Trump. I don't think the Chinese are gonna back off. I
No,
think the
I don't
Chinese
think
are
so
gonna
either.
say,
There was some,
you know,
when Donald Trump talked about pulling back the tariffs, he didn't say how much, he didn't say when, he didn't say anything. He was just trying to appease people that are getting on him about the tariffs. Um,
right.
China came out and said, "Yeah, we're not doing anything because we can't trust him." And that's the
Yep.
right move. You can't sit down with Donald Trump and cut a deal because the deal won't last, as is the
Right.
case with Mexico and Canada. They cut a deal that Donald Trump's team wrote. They agreed no tariffs on one another. But Donald Trump, as soon as he gets back in office, he breaks those uh, commitments in this trade agreement. So nobody wants to deal with him.
Right.
And for him to suggest that people are calling and wanting to cut deals, that's bullshit because nobody knows what to do. And China is the big one. And you can see Donald Trump kind of shitting his pants here. He puts on the big tariffs thinking that'll scare them, that'll bring them to their knees. And then they put tariffs on. Now he gets mad, so he puts bigger tariffs on. The, the pissing contest ensues. And Donald Trump has a problem because his only strategy is being a bully. And the only way a bully wins is if the other guy backs down. Well,
Yeah.
China's not backing down. China's making hay while the sun shines. They're cutting deals with Canada and everybody else
Yeah.
to get business they never had before. So America will take a shit and China will flourish. Thanks, Donald Trump.
Yeah. And the thing about it is that the Chinese won't will basically be the superpower left in the world. And the only thing we have is military, but what good is that? Oh,
Yeah,
by the way, you know who a country does that to? Russia.
Russia.
Okay, think about it. Their economy's shot. The only thing they have is a military, not a ground military, but they do have missiles and stuff. That's the only thing they have left in nukes. But their economy is shit. We know this. Everyone knows that.
Right.
And now it seems like we're marrying that. We're in less than we're coming at 100 days of the Trump administration, first 100 days. And already the far right is going, "Yay! Look what we did! Look what we did!" And I mean, it's all going to be culture stuff, the trans stuff, the Doge, all that. You're just going to hear about that. Period. None
Yeah,
of the shit that's the truth, but you're going to hear about
I,
the other stuff.
I don't know if you saw Donald Trump's press conference at the White
I
House
try to
with
avoid
the
it.
with,
I 30
with
seconds, and they make
well,
me
with
ill
the
when I have to go.
Norwegian
I'm sorry.
president or whoever he is, was there. They didn't even talk to the Norwegian president or premier. I'm not sure what they call him, but Donald Trump, went to his oldies but goodies, his classic hits. He said grocery prices are down, gas prices are down, eggs are down 87%. Now, I was out shopping today. I bought gas. Gas is up, groceries are up, and eggs haven't dropped 87%. In fact, they're going back up again. But this guy will spew these lies over and over again, and dumb fucks in this country will believe him. Even if they go to the store and buy this stuff, they still buy into the bullshit.
It's 1984, and Trump will say, I mean, he's blaming Biden still for stuff.
Oh, yeah.
And then he's just, yeah. And so it's the old part of 1984 book where they cut the chocolate supply, but then 2 weeks later, he says we're going to raise the chocolate supply to the same amount that they cut, and everyone
Right.
goes, "Thank you, Big Brother," because they're doing their thinking for them. Hence
Right.
the definition of stupidity. Um, and they keep repeating the lie because it works. Why do they keep saying the same thing? Because it fucking works. And
But it's
people have
working
given up.
less. It's people are starting to get hip to this because they've got polls out. And I'm not big on polls, but there'd be no reason to lie on this because it makes Donald Trump look bad. But they were
Mhm.
talking to people and how they felt about his economic plans and the way he's handling things, his approval rating there. 59% of the country think he's fucking up. They don't like what's going on. About 39% think he's doing a great job. And those are the people that are the base. And I would love to sit down and have them explain to me which part of the economic situation we currently have is good, because there isn't one. There is no good going on in the economy at this point.
And the answers you will get will be their slogans and the things they hang on to. They will double down because that is stupid.
Yeah.
Um, you and I sent you a video about that, and the more I saw that video in 12 minutes, in 15 minutes, I got to explain 10 years of fucking MAGA. Because what they'll do is that stupid is the one thing I liked about that video made a good comment because you talk about Republicans. Republicans are dumb. They know this is bullshit, the majority of them, but it's groupthink. So they're hanging on to it. And one of
Yeah.
the definitions of stupid is that it's a social disease, and it's harder to come back from evil because it's not an intellectual thing; it's a moral code because they're it's a moral code of cowardness because they
Right.
don't want to stop and think anymore because they know there's a price to pay to think.
Well,
So
what I
Republicans know it's wrong, but they're going to keep doing it because they're afraid.
what I found interesting about that video you sent me, and I only saw the first part of it. For a long time, I've said maybe half jokingly, but for the most part, I mean it, that one of our biggest problems is we have an epidemic of stupid. And
Hmm.
people think, oh, that's just Mike saying epidemic of stupid. And it kind of is. But the fact of the matter is that video points out, and I think we can see it every day, that there is a lot of ignorance out there, whether it's they're misinformed or they're lazy or they are just flat out stupid. I have Trump LaFuck saying, why do you call me stupid? And I say, because I'm giving you the benefit of the doubt, because the other option is pretty fucked and you'd be
Yeah.
evil. So I'm going to assume you're stupid.
And what we're talking about, there's a video on YouTube about Dietrich Bonhoeffer, who was a German philosopher, Lutheran minister, and a resistance fighter during World War
Hmm.
II, who during the rise of the Nazi Party, was fighting on it, trying to convince people, hey, it's trying to do intellectual stuff until he's picked up by the Nazis and thrown in jail. And then he
Right.
realized that it's not intellectual, it's this there's stupidity and and since he's a philosopher, he came up with this definition of it. Stupidity is the state of mind that arises when a person surrenders their responsibility to think. And he says it's a transformation. It's not people aren't born stupid. They transform to it to belong to the group, i.e., MAGA, and they keep following it. And the slogans, when you debate a MAGA, what do they give us? Slogans. The same thing over and over again because that's all they have. And his point is you can't argue with a stupid person. You can't bring him back from with logic. They have to be liberated from the situation so they're open again to think. So in other
Yeah.
words, you have to overthrow the Trump regime and like that, and then they get to think. Because all those people later in World War II, the common folk began to realize after the end of the war, oh my God, what did we do? And there was very a
Yeah.
lot of shame to it. So that's
Right.
what we're dealing with right now. And I mean, if you don't find it, it's on YouTube. I don't know if you can put it in the link in YouTube when you post it.
Yeah.
Um, but it's really worth the time because it will explain it and saved it a lot of trouble trying to talk to Trump to MAGA because they're not going to listen to you.
No,
We
there's
have
no
to save
point.
them from themselves. Honestly, hey, how you doing, Jay? Sorry.
Yeah, hold
Yeah,
on a second. We got to hold on. We got to do this right. We have Will with us. We have an interloper who we thought might show up, and he did show up. Jay from California, who's on his way to Canada. And what's happening out on the West Coast, Jay?
well, first off, I have to apologize to you. I have to say sorry first because I fucked up my sense of time zones, and I somehow thought that 9:30 Eastern is 7:30 Pacific, which it's not. So I ended up half an hour late to the party. Sorry, people.
No
It's
big
okay.
deal.
Cool.
No big deal. We're free and easy here. Have you been watching the news today? Is there anything that gets on your nerves today? Because I know there's plenty of stuff going on to piss people off.
Mostly still leftover angst from that fucking autism registry that RFK Jr. is trying to set up. I mean, how dystopian can you get?
That's pretty
Uh,
bad.
Yeah. And
What's
one
your
thing that
greatest fear of
one
that? What's
go
your
ahead, Jay.
greatest fear of that of having that registry? What do you think that'll how will that impact you?
oh, you're asking me? Oh,
Yeah,
okay. I I mean, I don't know. I'm the fact that they're grabbing people and deporting them without due process, and the fact that RFK Jr. wanted previously mentioned that he wanted to send people with ADHD, etc., to quote unquote wellness farms. I
it
I
is
really don't
troubling.
know. It's really troubling. It screams it screams diet country concentration camp. Honestly,
Yeah, it sounds a
I'm
lot
really
like 30s Germany is what it
those are
sounds like.
three those are three words that should never be together in the same sentence. By the way,
Yeah, absolutely. Um,
Now
we,
there
we,
is
we did,
some good news. There is some good news on that front for you, Jay. As I saw a report is that yeah, he wants to do it, but the database or NIH is not designed to do it. So they may run into problems even wanting to do it. So that's a good point.
that's good news.
well, as I've told you before, I've said many times before, Donald Trump can say he wants to do a lot of things. RFK Jr. can say they want to do a lot of things, but at the core, they're fuck ups. And they always fuck up.
That's true.
They always talk big. They very rarely come through with the things they want to do. You know, the things they're trying to do by just causing chaos, they're having some success with. But when it goes to court, they lose, and they lose over and over again. I wanted to bring something up about this press conference that we had earlier today, meaning Thursday. Uh, in this press conference, Donald Trump was asked about this Russia Ukraine war. And Donald Trump wants us to
Oh,
believe
gee.
that, oh, we're so close to getting this deal done, which is absolute bullshit. Donald Trump said he would get it taken care of and wrapped up in 24 hours. We're now 3 months into it. But Donald Trump said one thing to start things off. This isn't my war. This is Biden's war. And somebody needs to remind him that he's currently the president and the war is raging on. And he said he would fix it. But he's already trying to pawn this off on Biden. Too bad. Biden's a private citizen. He's sleeping on the couch right now. It's on you, motherfucker.
Oh, ain't that lovely?
Yeah. And
Um,
the thing about it is that it's a more of a he keeps trying to get Ukraine to capitulate. Ukraine's not capitulating
No.
because
no, they're not going to do that.
you know, their deal is basically um, Russia keeps what they want. You give them Crimea, and everything's going to be okay. The Ukrainians aren't going to do that. They already said that's not going to happen.
No,
No, and
And
Russia
they
I
don't
now.
need the U.S.
Yeah.
I met two, or probably more than that. Actually, it's more like a couple of lovely Ukrainian people at International People's College in Denmark when I was there. Back when I first started emailing Mike before I was on the podcast, though, and they're not giving up. They're
No.
not going to do it. They're not. No.
Well, the funny thing about it is Donald Trump was asked about Russia, and he was saying, "How come you're not putting any pressure on Russia?" And Donald Trump said, "I am putting pressure on Russia." Yeah, motherfucker, you're not putting pressure on Russia. You're trying to get Ukraine to surrender to Russia. That's been your whole strategy. That's why you thought you could do it quick. You thought you could go in there and intimidate Zelensky and make him give up everything to Russia. And as you pointed out, Jay and Will, he's just not going to do that. There's no point in it. Um,
No.
and when asked about concessions that Russia is willing to give, this is what Donald Trump said. Well, I think they made a big concession by not taking the whole country. See, Donald Trump is trying to sell this story that Russia's strong, they can roll over the top of them, Ukraine better cower and just take what's given them. But the fact of the matter is, if they could have done that, they would have done that 3 years ago. They wouldn't have lost 700,000 troops and they wouldn't have lost their fucking
There's a,
economy. But
there's
that's
a
the story
video.
Donald Trump's trying to sell.
There's a guy on TikTok who's a Ukrainian soldier that brings his cat on patrol with him. This
Really?
cat is on the patrol with him, and with the Ukrainian army, they got him a little uniform and anything. That cat has more combat experience than a lot of people, and also has more courage than Donald Trump will ever have in his damn life. That cat's a little badass, and that tells you one thing about the Ukrainians: they are not going to do it. And the other thing too, the Russians don't have the troops to do it. They don't have the manpower. They really don't even have the on the ground vehicles to do it. All they have is still air power, and
Yeah.
that's what's still keeping them in the war. But the if I'm correct, the Ukrainians took Russian territory
Yeah, they did.
about a
Yeah.
year ago, about 6 months ago, and they haven't been able to push the Ukrainians out. They
They talked
still
about it.
own that Russian territory. And that tells you one thing. Well, if they're so badass, why is the Ukrainians holding that Russian territory?
Yeah.
We know the truth. And the other thing too, why did the Ukrainians quit? The Germans, the French, everyone's giving them weapons and support again. Again, don't need us. We got this. And that's what's going to happen. And eventually it's going to catch up with Putin. He's going to have to do something so egregious in order to get any kind of victory, and that's when it's the rubber's going to hit the road. If he uses something like a tactical nuke, if he uses something like gas, what's our reaction going to be?
Our
What is
reaction
our
isn't going to be
reaction going to
shit.
be?
Our reaction from the president's going to say, "Oh, he's a brilliant warrior." We won't do shit, but I'll guarantee you, people in Europe and around the rest of the world will be freaking the fuck out, and Russia will have a problem. You have to understand, Donald Trump is becoming frustrated here. He always thinks he can control things, right? He thought he could
Yeah.
go in and talk to Zelensky and say, "You better stop, or you're going to have the power of America down on your head." Zelensky said, "Fuck yourself." What people have to
Hmm.
understand, it isn't just Zelensky that's desperate to have this thing over. It is Vladimir Putin. He's not going to say it, but he is desperate because he is losing. He's in all kinds of trouble. Now, Donald Trump goes to Zelensky and say, "Give up and we can wrap this thing up." And Zelensky says, "No." Donald Trump is trying to portray Vladimir Putin and Russia as the good guys and Ukraine the bad guys. So while this is all going on, then Russia bombs the piss out of Kiev. And Donald Trump's so frustrated, he said, "Please stop, Vladimir."
Yeah,
That's the only
right.
thing he's ever said to Donald Trump
Uh,
to get him to stop. But what he's upset about is not Kiev getting bombed. He's upset by the fact that it makes him look like he's weak, that he's done nothing, that it's gotten worse. And that's an accurate portrayal.
Yeah, and he's never. The problem we're dealing with is with someone who just cannot, who's incompetent, evil, and also just never will admit a mistake. And that's why we're looking at going on with immigration. You made mistakes. You picked up U.S. citizens, but they're still not moving forward, listening to the court. Because for Trump, right now, the biggest thing that's going on, while all the other shit's going on, the immigration thing, the lack of due process,
Right.
is something that is as accelerating as we speak. You say he's frustrated. I think it's being taken out on people, immigrants, and anyone they feel they can get away with removing from the country. They
Yeah.
want to see tough. Also, the problem too is that there is a shadow, in my mind, a shadow government running this. I've heard that. What is the name of that game? That security firm that got kicked out of Iraq, Blackstone,
Black Rock.
BlackRock.
BlackRock.
Yeah.
Yeah, their chairman is apparently been drawing up these security forces. That's why you're seeing the black macabre, black mask, the unmarked cars, because they're not ICE, they're
Right.
BlackRock, and
Wow.
that's what's going on. And so that's what's going on, and you're seeing an escalation of that, picking everybody up. That even having what's going on is that someone laid it out in a great TikTok. Is that what they're doing is they're looking through everyone's immigration status if you're legal, even if you're legal and on a visa, to see if you committed any crimes. If you committed even a fucking traffic ticket, they're revoking your visa, but then they're doing a retroactive back to where you had first come into the country, so they can say he's been illegal in this country for years. His
Yeah.
visa was
Oh my
revoked
God.
5 years ago, and then that's how they're picking people up.
Okay, so my response to that, my question is, when the fuck are we going to do that to Elon Musk? Because he's one of the worst offenders.
Well, that's funny you should say
Yeah,
that
I'm
about Elon.
sorry.
Elon's future doesn't look too bright. Elon is a malignant narcissist, and he thinks anything he does or says is absolute genius. But has a problem now because everything he's doing is failing. Even Republicans are pushing back against him. In spite of the fact that he thought everything he was doing was perfect, people hate him. And people hate him, and his brand and his company are going to shit. And we now see that that's shaking Elon Musk. And now he's talking about, well, I'm going to probably step back and tend to my own business. I've already done my job here. What you have to understand about Elon Musk, when he started out, he said, "I'm going to save you $2 trillion." And then when that didn't happen, he said, "I'm going to save you $1 trillion." And then when that didn't happen, he said, "Well, I've saved you $100 billion." The unfortunate thing is the damage he did far exceeds $100 billion, and he's the fucking waste. He's the waste
Yeah, he is.
that he was looking for. Go
I
ahead.
had another thought. I was going to do this at the start of the show before I completely messed up the joining spot. Um, First of all, Will, I know you're a Christian, ex-Catholic.
Yeah.
I'm technically a Christian as well. I'm a Unitarian Universalist, so I wanted to have my sort of moment of silence for the passing of Pope Francis
Yes.
because
Yeah, fine.
he was, as you said, he was a man of God. He very much was, and
Pope or not, he was a good man with the
yeah,
right
and
ideas.
I do not understand just the outrage that that so many people had towards him. Like I don't get it. He's following the manual that you guys live by. He's literally following the things to the letter, and you have the gall to, I don't know what, criticize him, lambast him for quote unquote being woke. I mean, God Almighty, if that's how you define woke, Jesus must have been the most woke person ever, and I don't
Yeah.
even know.
Well,
Jesus.
Jay, you have to understand this. He had one fatal flaw. This Pope. He was the first Latin American Pope in history, so he was brown. That's a capital offense with the conservatives. He was a brown man. He was also an immigrant, and he espoused the things that they don't like, that the conservatives don't like. So he is exactly what these people don't like. I saw an interview. You know those interviews where that Walter guy goes out and talks to people, Trumplefucks. He's a comedian, and he's basically making fun of these people. He asked this one woman who's a Trumplefuck, and he said, "So, if Jesus came in here, you'd let him in?" And the woman honestly said, "Yeah, we'd let him in as long as he went through the proper channels." Oh, you're going to make Jesus go through fucking immigration. Yeah, you people aren't serious. Shut the fuck up.
That is, and the point about Pope Francis is that, and a lot of it was because in America he really laid down the law with a lot of stuff about not to step up on only helping the poor, but stepping on priests and not hiding stuff, the pedophilia, which they didn't like. And
Right.
American bishops are a very conservative group because they get latched onto political power.
That's true.
Again, remember, we got 1 billion Catholics in this world, and the Pope does have some influence.
Yeah.
And that's the one thing that they didn't like. And now, I believe someone said, I think it was in the live, that he had appointed 109 of the conclave that's about to elect a new Pope, which is a good thing. Hopefully, the next Pope we get is not a conservative Pope, someone that's going to make them happy. Although the idea of a Filipino as a pope, considering that 89% of that country is Catholic, 80
Yeah.
million Catholics are in
Yeah.
the Philippines. And again, that's a different perspective of the world. And that's what they don't like, because to a lot of Catholics, it's they they they're very centralized and they don't understand that Catholicism runs all cultures. Catholicism around the world, Africa.
Yeah.
The Republic of Congo is the fourth largest country with Catholics in it. A culture comes into the religion whether you like it or not. The teachings still stand, and that's the one thing about evangelicals that I despise is that they don't understand that religion is influenced by culture, but the baseline is the teachings of Jesus from the Sermon on the Mount, but they twist it. They twist it because for them it's about power, it's about making sure that everyone does what they say, and it's about basically hate the other, which is all
Yeah.
opposite of Jesus. Evangelical, the evangelical church, to me, is everything that is literally antichrist in my
Absolutely.
mind. And I know there's
Absolutely.
a whole bunch of people going to watch this and go, "Yeah, I'm going to say it because it's the truth." Because if you're going to be what would Jesus do? Well, sure as fuck won't be what the Trump administration's doing. Hi, real world. Thank you. And all those, dude, that signing of the last executive orders, that one guy presenting this thing to sign for Trump about corporal punishment for schools. What the fuck is wrong with you? You know, that shouldn't even be done. If you have to hit a child for behavior, there's something wrong with you. That's the parent's prerogative. I don't give a shit. I don't care. If someone had done that to me when I was a kid, my mom would have been in there tossing people through windows.
Yeah.
Okay. My mom got upset at a church, at a teacher once, because I came home and it spelled my name with a Q instead of a G. And I go, Mom goes, why? Because the teacher said it was wrong. The next day, she's in there telling that teacher how to spell Rodriguez, which is my last name.
Yeah.
This is what, see, that's a parent thing, not an executive order by the president. What the fuck
Exactly.
is wrong with you people?
Go ahead, Jay.
Yeah. Um, I we all know how, you know, the 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 uh the Mango Mussolini and his entire crowd have perverted the term DEI into something that it's not, and has turned, as you've said, Will, has turned it into the new Jim Crow. I would like to offer my own version of DEI that perfectly sums up them and this whole entire situation. Demented, evil, insane. There's your
Yeah.
DEI.
Yeah, no shit. I will tell you this: if they introduce corporal punishment into the school system, where my granddaughter is starting in kindergarten this next fall, and she was touched in any way, I would love to go after that person, but I'd have to do it after my wife, who is a former teacher. Fuck
Mm-hmm.
that bitch up, because she would be. My wife's not a violent person, but you touch her kids or her grandkids, you're going to get fucked up.
And so but it's also more nonsense from the Christian and right, where they're just trying to turn this country into something that doesn't exist. And to top off, Pam Bondi has let loose their anti-Christian bias task force. What the fuck
Uh,
are you
You know what
talking about?
when I see the things they're doing, to me it almost seems not so much ideology or trying to change anything. It's almost like vandalism. Just do whatever I can to fuck things up or piss off the libtards or whatever. They don't even care if it really happens, just to make that noise and send that message. You know, that kind of goes back to what we were talking about before. Everybody's worried about the Democrats messaging. There is no messaging. It's not that
Right.
sophisticated anymore. It's a pissing contest. So acknowledge it's a pissing contest and start pissing, because that's the only way we're going to fight this.
Yeah, and messaging it's the message is really simple. Have some moral courage to say this is all wrong. Have moral courage to say that, yeah, I don't care if they're criminals or not. You may not like that idea, but they're due process. And if we convict them, then they will be deported properly. Don't be afraid of so-called 80-20, where the Republicans now have the high ground because they're taking care of criminals, illegal criminals. That's not the truth.
Right.
And if you're
yeah.
going to play that game coming up, you're going to end up losing again, because a lot of us, that's why David Hogue is out there. That's why they
Oh,
don't like David Hogue. They don't like David Hogue because he's saying, you guys don't have the message that's going to get through because you keep thinking the Republican message worked. It didn't work. It was a con job. And if
Yeah.
you go repeating that message, or just because you got an incumbent, you think he's going to win? No, it doesn't work like that. It won't work like that. And you got to have people and I, like John Ossoff, who's coming up for
Yeah.
re-election here in Georgia. What do you see from him? He's speaking out. He works for Georgia. He's not taking their shit. You get him in a committee, one of those guys, he eats them alive. Do you know who's going to run against him? They're already saying it.
Oh,
Marjorie Taylor Greene.
Jesus Christ.
ooh,
Please do.
Okay.
Please
yeah.
do.
Yeah, please. Because here's the thing. I don't think she'll debate him. Because if she gets on this debate stage with John Ossoff, he will kick her ass one side to the other. It's not
He
going
will
to
chew
work.
her up and spit her out.
Spit her
Yeah,
out.
no question.
But
No
see,
question.
see, this is a power play because they think they can play on our power. Yeah, that works in Rome, Georgia, and Cobb County. It ain't gonna fucking work around the wheel here. That's not gonna work
No.
around the rest of the state because we know what the man can do for us. I know what Marjorie Taylor Greene has done. Not a goddamn thing. But the point being, that's what they have. That's what the Democrats don't get the idea. These people who are going to run on the MAGA side are worthless. All you got to do to send the message is, we will work to give you back what they took from you, your rights, your Social Security, your Medicare, your Medicaid. We're going to make sure everyone gets due process. What about the immigrants? Then we're going to have an immigration policy that allows everyone to go through the process and not be shipped to foreign countries. And why are we paying foreign countries for money for a concentration camp? How is that a bad message, guys? That's
No.
easy. And I'm not a political mind. That's easy. But
Well,
what do I know?
if they run Marjorie Taylor Greene for the Senate seat against John Ossoff, that says a lot about the quality of candidates in Georgia. There aren't any, because at this point she goes to her town hall meetings and she gets shouted down and she has protest in front of her in her own home district. So God help her in Atlanta or any place else
Well, you know,
of any intelligence in Georgia, Savannah, what have you. She is not going to get a single vote. People are embarrassed by
well,
her.
but remember who ran against Raphael Warnock a year and a half ago.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so, I mean, they thought, and unfortunately, that was closer than I thought. Now, he did win over 50%, so they have to go to a runoff. Thank the Almighty God. But
Yeah.
but it still was closer. So you're going to get something like that. But the point being is, that's the idea that you can get Republicans. They're not serious about this bullshit. They still think the culture war is going to work. I don't think the culture war is going to work when your Walmart shelves are empty.
Exactly. Exactly.
No.
I think when the economy goes to shit and the other problems arise, see, that's the thing people don't understand. We're talking about the tariffs and everybody's going, yeah, it's tough now. You haven't seen anything yet. The
No,
tough part hasn't hit. It's going to be mid-May, early June, and it's going to hit hard,
you
and
know,
people are going to be devastated.
another video that's pretty telling. There was a shipping in one of the ports. They got 200. They got 22,000 shipping containers from China. They were fucking empty. The Chinese
Wow.
spent money to ship empty containers to the United States, basically saying, "How do you like them apples?"
Yeah.
This is you guys out there who are still working the slogans, working the propaganda because you can't let go. I understand that you're sick. You're not sick. You're just part of the group. I get it. And we will liberate you and you will think again someday. But you got to
Maybe.
understand, well, if the whatever, I mean, I'm not going to, you're done because you voted for it. But the point is, what are you going to do when you're eating dirt?
Yeah.
When it's not eating, I mean, the depression at the highest point of the depression, even though there was stuff in the there was, it wasn't a shortage of food. You had, and if I've read that right, you had 84 million Americans with no source of any income at all. Nothing. No
Right.
job, no Social Security, no unemployment, nothing. That's all the things that came with the New Deal. But they had nothing, no source of income. What happens when you do that? And they will do it because they're still going after Social Security, whether you like it or not. What are you going to do at that point? How are your propaganda, your slogans going to feed your family? Ask yourself that
Yeah.
question. Well, it won't. It all happen afterwards.
Yeah. It's, my grandfather used to tell me, I had a grandfather who was born in 1911, so he went through all the major things that happened, especially the Depression. And I had enough foresight when I was in my 30s, early 30s, that I sat down with my grandfather and I did about an hour and a half interview with him about all the different terrible times they went through, because I wanted my granddaughter or grandson to be able to hear somebody who's a direct relative who had actually gone through the Depression and Pearl Harbor and all that kind of stuff. And he was telling me about the Depression, and there are all kinds of bad things. Not everybody suffered, but there was a lot of people that did. But he remembers seeing drunks in the streets in the 20s and 30s. Now, at that time, they didn't have antifreeze. They just poured alcohol in their cars. And these guys would crawl into the cars, untwist the nut, and literally drink the alcohol out of the fucking car. It was crazy. Of course, a lot of people died doing that too, but the desperation gets pretty dramatic. And hopefully, we don't see anything like that here with what Donald Trump has planned. Go ahead, Jay.
Uh, Maybe I can explain the mentality of some of the MAGA people with a movie that I saw recently. That's part of like a what the hell Wednesday, I guess I'd call it, of like where I just find some random obscure movie and just watch it just for kicks. I saw this movie from 2010. It's based on The Wizard of Oz, but mostly in name only, called Yellow Brick Road, all one word
All
with no
right.
spaces.
Mhm.
And the premise is in 1940, the entire town of Fryer, New Hampshire, just got up randomly in the middle of Sunday service. It's still in their Sunday best, and they walked off into a hiking trail in the woods, and they never came back. So
Wow.
hold on, because it thinks it's going to get an explanation in a second. Naturally, the authorities go and investigate. They find everyone from the town dead in the woods from various causes. Some people are ripped apart, some people are frozen, whatever. There's one guy left, and he's too traumatized to say anything. So this thing blows up to such a big thing that the government covers it up. And eventually, 70 years later, a bunch of researchers in the modern day, like a typical horror movie, camping in the woods type of troop, go out
Mhm.
to this trailhead, which has a rock at the start of it with Yellow Brick Road carved into it. And they go out and they investigate this thing, and as they're going along, they start to hear this sort of old timey Wizard of Oz style music coming from everywhere and nowhere at the same time. And it
Wow.
gets weirder because the land starts to twist and distort. The GPS thinks they're in Guam and then in Venice and then in Italy and then in South America. It just going all crazy. They keep on going, and one by one they slowly start to go insane. And the researchers they go nuts and they start killing each other. But they don't turn back. They don't. For one thing, they're not even sure they can go back, and for another, they're still convinced that there's something at the end of the trail. Wherever the music is coming from, they're going to find something there, and it's going to make the whole thing worth it. So in the end, they eat themselves to death. They all end up killing each other or overdosing on toxic berries. Or one girl just straight up dead face walks straight off a cliff, like doesn't jump off, just walks off it. But the point is, one guy's left there. He keeps on following the music and following the music and following the music. His lips are bleeding. He's at the end of his rope, and he finally gets to the source of the music, and it's the movie theater that they all met up at outside of the trailhead. The entire trip was for nothing. And that's the mentality of these MAGA people. They're going insane, they're eating each other, they're going nuts, but they still keep on going because they still think there's going to be something in the end in it for them. And there's also that thing of they're not even sure they can go back is another part of it.
Yeah.
We know that was going to happen anyway from the beginning, that they would start attacking themselves, and it sounds like in the Department of Defense, um, I think
Hmm.
I think the communications director, or the whoever the fuck she is, said that everybody in the Department of Defense just hates Pete Hegseth. It's not fair. Well, you're the
Oh,
leader of the
gee.
fucking Department of Defense. If they don't like you, fix it, motherfucker. That's your job. But this is what's going to happen. People are going to realize that this shit will fade away at some point, and they're going to have to answer to what they did while it was going on, much like they did in Germany in the 30s. And
Yeah.
people are starting to get nervous, and they're starting to push back. They're starting to get tired of looking like idiots because they're being led by idiots. They will probably eat themselves before the Democrats can even do anything.
Well, you want a good example of that. I mean, Sarah Huckabee Sanders, the governor of Arkansas, who says Arkansas
Yeah.
is a perfect state. Um,
Yeah.
they've had the last month really bad storms go through. a total of like 14 tornadoes ripping through Arkansas. Now, Arkansas doesn't have much of a base to begin with.
No, they have no money.
She turned around and asked the White House or asked the federal government for, a declaration of a federal emergency, which starts the FEMA process. You know
Right.
what they told her? No,
Yep. No,
nope,
no, no.
No,
no,
yeah.
no. And this is, I mean, because Sanders always said to herself, look for us. We're not going to go to the federal government for a handout. Yeah, you need the money now. It's there. The system is there, supposed to help you, but it's gone. Why is it gone? Why is it gone? Because Trump decided to get rid of it. This whole thing about FEMA, which was one of the things for the election, these people, and he used that to the core of North Carolina, who he told them to go fuck themselves a couple
Right.
months ago too. It's all gone, but no one talks about it. The media doesn't talk about it. It's all gone. I mean, I just caught that on a blurb, and no one's saying anything about that. That people that need help on the ground in Arkansas are fucked.
Yeah, they
They're
are. I
fucked.
mean, when you live in a poor state and you're a poor person yourself and your house gets ripped away and the federal government isn't there to help you, what do? Arkansas doesn't have the money to take care of that. You certainly don't have the money to take care of it. So now you're living in a fucking refrigerator box by the side of the road because the federal government, who you pay taxes to, refuses to help.
And it gets worse. And the one thing also that came up, as we before Jay came in, we were talking about Jesse Dollemore, who was a great one to watch. But he made a comment that finally they're starting to notice things that Trump is doing, relating to people who were opposing, not just the
Oh.
60 Minutes, not I mean, who was the guy who resigned because 60 Minutes and Paramount trying to kowtow, CBS and Paramount trying to kowtow to Trump because they want to get a merger through, so they're willing to sacrifice their integrity. But that's part of the course nowadays for corporate media. But months ago, I did something about what the Soviet Union used to do, and they did this to Alexander Solzhenitsyn years ago. It's the crime of called breakers. The idea is that you spoke against the Soviet Union, you were breaking the contract you had with the Soviet Union. You were causing social chaos.
Right.
So they would take two roads with you. They would either arrest you and end up in the gulag, or you would be considered insane because who the hell would turn against the great Soviet state and be put in an insane asylum? Alexander Solzhenitsyn went the second part. They put him in
Oh.
an insane asylum till he was able to get asylum in the United States. But the idea is that if someone speaks against the government, they had a crime. Trump is seriously considering using the terrorist angle for people who speak against him and the government. Sir Gorka, the so-called
Yeah.
counter-terrorism idiot,
Simon
his
Gorka.
comment, yeah, his thing was, if we're talking about what happened to Trevor Garcia, that means we're supporting terrorists because Garcia is a terrorist. Therefore, we committed a crime, and so therefore we should be arrested for aiding and abetting terrorism. That's how it starts,
Simon
and that's
Gorka
what we
is
look
an
at.
absolute joke. He's an
I
absolute
know.
joke. He looks like a very weak superhero villain. Simon Gorka. He was a joke in the first term. Then he went to work at Fox News and some of these other outlets. Now he's back because he did such a shitty job the last time, and he was willing to work for Donald Trump. He is an absolute joke. Anybody who takes him seriously is a fool themselves.
But it's not that because even Trump has been talking about the homegrown stuff,
Oh yeah,
shipping
yeah.
Americans to El Salvador. The point is things get, this is to air all of us. And Jay, you leaving the country might be the best thing right now. For all of us who are speaking out, it's going to start. They're going to go after the bigger people. They're going to accuse them of terrorism. And we just pick them up and ship them out because they're a threat to society, a threat to America. They may disappear. The point being is, before it gets better, it's going to get worse. Now,
Yeah.
if they go that route, I don't think Americans are going to sit there and kowtow because we won't capitulate. We're going to be
No.
very upset. and very pissed off. But those are the things that happen with an authoritarian government when you let them do all your thinking for them and think. And as Jay said, you're right. They think there's something at the end of that road, at the bottom of the rainbow. But the problem they're finding out is that Donald Trump's already taken it,
Yeah.
and he's taking your money along the way. That's the
It was
truth.
never there in the first place, is the thing.
Never there in the first place. And the point is, like, they keep feeding them that music. They love their music. They love their. We're going to get rid of them immigrants. You know, we're going to own the libtards. You know, Trump is going to make the world better again for us white folk. All these things they keep hearing. Meanwhile, they have no food. They have no income. Their social security is getting cut. They have no health care. But there's going to be something we hold on. Maybe we'll get that $5,000 check from Doge. Or if my wife has 18 child, we'll get $5,000. But
Yeah.
see, your example makes sense to me because that's what people do when they're in so deep.
Yeah.
Because
Desperation.
at this point, they got to get something. There's got to be something. Yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, I think a really important at this point, really, the trail that those researchers walked in that movie is Donald Trump and his whole administration. In the movie, the trail itself is almost like a living thing. It's a living creature that preys on people almost by using this music that's coming from everywhere and nowhere to make them go crazy and then kill each other. And then
Right.
I don't know, it eats them somehow, I guess. But you're absolutely right. The music is the propaganda they're feeding these people. The trail itself is the Trump administration, the Trump regime, and everyone involved with it. And the people walking down it aren't even the researchers. They're more like the original people of the town that just got up in the middle of Sunday mass and just walked out into the woods
Yep.
for no reason.
Don't you think that there's,
Yeah.
you know, when we were at the election, 49% of the people voted for Donald Trump. It was disconcerting to me because I would have never imagined that to happen. I thought Donald Trump would get beat handily. But don't you think right now, the way things are going and the way the polls are coming in, there's far less people who are buying into Donald Trump? There were the ill-informed who bought into him just because he was a Republican. But I think even those folks now are saying,
Yeah.
what the fuck? What the fuck is going on here? This is crazy. I mean, the farmers, they typically voted for Donald Trump all three elections, and now they're sitting on the verge of total collapse. And a lot of them still say, well, I still support Donald Trump, but I didn't think he would do this. This guy is going to fuck you in the ass and stand back and you go, I still love you, but why did you do that? It's ridiculous.
Yeah, because it goes
Stop
back
following
to
that
what we were
music.
talking about. Yeah, it still also goes back to this. We talked about those who are thinking about stupid, which is harder to confront than evil. Because if someone's evil or truly malice, they know they're doing wrong. They feel guilty about it. They know they're doing wrong.
Right.
But the
Right.
people who are stupid have bought into that. They've given up their thing. They're thinking because, like the farmer, I know what's going to happen to me is wrong. I'm getting screwed, but I'm going to stay with it because I believe in that because I believe it's going to work for me. It's stupid. It doesn't make sense, but it makes sense to them because that's all they've got. And I mean, like the example of I sent that video out about the alfalfa farmer. He's
Right.
saying he's only got a couple of months left, but he still supports Trump and the tariffs. Dude, I mean, it's right in front of you. Your freaking hay barn is empty. You don't even want to cut your crop because you don't have nowhere to sell it.
Right.
And this is what you do. And it frustrates the rest of us who still have critical thinking, who still see this as no, you don't have to buy into the total government to be for government to work. I mean, some of these people say, well, talking about, well, when Joe Biden is called. No, I didn't give a fuck that Joe Biden was the president. He served me. He did a good job. I'm not bought into that. You guys are just in so deep. And the
That's
thing
the
about
thing.
us is that,
I don't think they understand is for me, Joe Biden was the president. I appreciated what he did. I wanted
Mhm.
Kamala to win on November 5th. But right now, at this moment in time, Joe Biden and Kamala Harris are inconsequential to me. They don't hold any power. They're private citizens like us. I like Joe, but I'm moving on. Joe's 100 years
no,
old. We need to find something new to get us back on track. Everybody with Donald Trump, when he lost, they stood behind him like he was fucking Mickey Mouse at the Mickey Mouse Club. And so they just can't grasp that. That's why they keep trying to jab us with Joe Biden. I keep telling them, I don't fucking care what you think about Joe. Joe's not an issue anymore.
yeah, and part of it too is like, I'm going to bring up something that every time there's an example of stuff, like an ICE raid or an example of what's going on, um, I have been making the comment, this is what we voted for. And people
Right.
are coming back, well, I didn't vote for it. Yeah, I didn't vote for it too. Mike didn't vote for it. Jay didn't vote for it. But we're all in this together. So this is what we voted for
Right.
because the majority of those voted put us in this place. So do not, and I had one person talking about, well, there was the election was fixed and they held it. And I said, stop making excuses. It's over. This is what we
Yeah.
voted for. We're in on it. We're all part of it. And now either you're going to let go of the past, which I am, because even though it still pisses me off, and figure out a way to unfuck this, either you're going to join us or get out of the way, because I don't want to hear your excuses anymore. I didn't vote for it. I didn't want to be part of that. And then shut up. Either be part of the solution or get out of the way.
Right.
Yeah, people didn't like that video because this is the truth. I'm sorry, Jay, you gonna say something, bro?
I'm gonna let you finish your thing because in a second I want to get to a thing that I did with Mike last time, which is Jay's Canadian politics corner. Just because I do
Oh
follow the
yeah,
news for that.
Yeah. Well,
go ahead. I'm done.
I wanted to say something regarding what Will said. I said this to a lot of people, and I won't say it's the absolute way to do things, but it's always worked for me. If you can train yourself to forget everything that happened yesterday and beyond, because there's nothing you can do about that. That's why the November 5th election means nothing to me. It means absolutely nothing to me. And don't worry so much about the future because the future you can't predict. But if you focus on what's in front of you and fuck the hell out of that, then maybe the
Mm-hmm.
future will be better. And when you get to the future, you can worry about it then. But people take too much to deal with. It's overwhelming.
Right.
I'm agonizing about November 5th. I'm worried about what's happening with a dictatorship 2 years down the road.
Yeah.
You can't spend any time worrying about that because you can't control it. Focus on what's going on today. Do the best job you can do with whatever's in front of you, and then hopefully it turns out for the best in the future. But that's all you
Which
can really
back
do.
brings it back to the Democrats, and we're talking about elections. All of us talking about, well, we need to figure out a message of why we lost on November 5th. Fuck that.
Fuck
It's
that. Yeah.
done. Don't even think about what their message was. What are you going to do now? Well, we're now looking at what we have to do ahead. If you go back and go, well, if we change the message, maybe it'll be better now. No, 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 no. Fucking stop it and move
Yeah.
forward. And that's the thing. If you're going to come to me as a Democrat and go, I want to change the message, then you're dead to me, Gavin Newsom.
The, the only lesson you
Yeah.
can take from the November 5th election is that whatever you did didn't work. So common sense would tell you if that didn't work, maybe we should do something fucking different. Now I don't know what
Right.
that is. Well, I kind of do, but that's the problem. They want to sink back into the standard business as usual with the Democratic Party, and we found out that doesn't work. So we need to set that aside and start getting in the game that's in front of us and not
Yeah.
worry about what we used to do because what we used to do, that's a different time, that's a different era. It doesn't work now. We've got to do whatever it takes to work. And if that means standing on the corner and pissing on Republicans and calling them dumbasses, if that's what it's going to take to work, then that's what we fucking do.
So yeah, I mean that's the point. So if you guys come to me again, say, "Well, I didn't vote for it," well then shut up because you're being part of the problem, not the solution. Either get with us or
Absolutely.
it's done. And you know what? This is what I'm going to say to all Americans, even though those from the far who didn't vote or in a situation. We have to own it.
Yeah.
We have to own it. We have to own what's going on. We have to own all the ugliness and the fear and the economic disaster. We have to own it because the only way we're going to fix it is to say, okay, we're all going to take a bite of the shit sandwich and then we're going to fix it. Because if you keep telling me, well, I don't care because I didn't vote for it, then you're just as bad as what's happening now. Simple as that.
And if you
And it's
and if
on
you
that.
still want to deny the November 5th election, you're wasting your fucking time because
Mhm.
nothing's going to be done about it. That's what I said initially on November 5th. Well, I think they cheated. The Democrats are going to do this. At the last minute, Kamala's going to do this. I said, no, they're not. If something was going to be done, it would have been done immediately after the election. The idea that we kept getting people telling us, oh, just wait, just wait. You sound like Republicans, and I refuse to be a fucking Republican.
Yeah.
It is what it is. It's over. Donald Trump is president. We got to deal with what's in front of us. Now, Jay, you were going to talk about Canada?
Yes, I was. So first off, I wanted to start with I went and watched the party leaders debate where they had the leaders of the different political parties up all answering questions and debating with each other. Because in
Mhm.
Canada, they don't have a presidential race, they have a party race where you're trying to convince people to vote for your party. And
Right.
so, if I remember correctly, the people that were up there were the main four were Mark Carney, who's the leader of the Liberals, um, Pierre P. Polyev, or
Right.
Pierre Polyester, as I've heard him called before, um, Jagmeet Singh, who's the leader of the NDP, which would be the Bernie Bros here if they had their own party,
Okay.
and then there was a guy named Yves Francois Blanchet, who was the leader of the Bloc Québécois, who is the only run candidates out of Quebec. But they were up there,
Mhm.
and I am not lying to you when I say that Pierre Polyev brought up Justin Trudeau no less than 12 times at least during that
Of
debate.
course.
Every 5 minutes with this guy was Justin Trudeau, Justin Trudeau, Justin Trudeau, Justin Trudeau, Justin Trudeau, Justin Trudeau, over and over and over again. And I could tell that conservative strategist I mentioned on the podcast a few weeks earlier was telling Pierre Polyev, change your strategy, you're going to lose, was tearing his hair out and screaming at his television screen, you're not running against this guy anymore. You're not running against this. Justin Trudeau's out. He's a non-entity. You're up against Mark
Right.
Carney, and it's not working for you.
But you see, that's the whole strategy with
Isn't
conservatives.
he? They
They,
call him Maple MAGA. Don't they call him
Oh
Maple
God,
yeah,
MAGA?
yeah,
yes.
yeah, Maple
Oh God,
MAGA. But
yes.
but but even the Republicans down here, they have no substance. They have no plans. They have no strategies. They don't know how to govern. The only thing they know how to do is tear down their opponent. And apparently, whether or not they're the opponent doesn't matter because you've got Pierre Poilievre going after Justin Trudeau, who is
Who
a
he's not running against.
non-entity. And then you've got Donald Trump going after Biden, who's inconsequential now because he's not president anymore. He's a private citizen. But this is all they know how to do. That's the problem. They don't know how to govern. They don't want to govern. They just want to say that other guy's worse than me. And it's not true, but there'll be some people that fucking buy into it.
And the thing is, it's not working for the conservatives up there either. It's not. Because let me get a quick dive into the thing. This time last year, the Liberal Party was set to win 20 to 30 something seats. That's a
Right.
wipeout. That's
Yeah.
Yeah.
you're fucked if that's your result. The Conservative Party, on the other hand, they were going to get upwards of 240 seats. That is a super majority. That's a super majority because you only need 172 seats to have a majority to govern without the assistance of another party, in which case you have to form what's called a confidence and supply agreement.
Right.
So the thing is now, this is where things stand now. Um, Pretty much every party, except for the two leading ones, is set to get wiped out. The NDP have, what is it, 24 seats right now? They're gonna be lucky to walk away with 9 or 8 in
Yeah.
this upcoming election. They're in the shitter, as it were. The
Which
conservatives,
ain't shit.
they're gonna yeah, they're going to get something. I want to say it was like 124 seats or something like that. That's not a good performance. As impressive as that might sound, that's not a good showing. The Liberals, on the
Do,
other
do,
hand, are set to get about 188 seats, which is
do you th- do you
more than
think
enough
that
for a majority.
do you think that the reason Pierre Poilievre and the Conservatives are having problems in Canada is because of Canadians watching what's going on down here? Donald Trump and his crew of people have pretty much uh, put a pin in Pierre Poilievre because they don't want a replication of what's going on
Um,
down here.
yes, but I think that's part of it. So in your, it's yes, that's true, but it's not the whole truth.
Okay.
Yes, they see what's going on down here. Yes, it's a shit show. Yes, they don't want a repeat of that. But also, what I heard from a lot of people in the comments of, like, for example, Steve Boots, who's basically a Canadian David Pakman, if that makes any sense, because he follows
Okay.
politics and covers it up there. A lot of the comments in his videos were saying, I was sick and tired of Justin Trudeau. I was going to vote conservative, and then they put Mark Carney, and I took another look at Pierre Poilievre. I went, what the fuck? I'm never voting conservative again. It's Liberal or NDP for me from here on out. So a lot of people just took a second look at Pierre Poilievre, and they're like, wait a minute, this guy's full of shit. And so then his thing fell apart.
What do you think, though, the Liberals parties who's still in power reaction to Trump, instead of just trying to capitulate, instead of, they basically went elbows up, as they said, and started
Yeah,
dumping American products. They stood up in Trump. They told Trump basically to go F himself. They threatened to cut off electricity to the Northeast. And they
My
just
state.
basically, yeah. And I think it looked like the Liberals all of a sudden said, oh, okay. I'll show you how we really play the game here in how liberals really play games here in Canada. Do you think that made as much a difference as I think it did? That all people said, "Oh, okay, these people want to stand up to him," where the conservatives believe in what he's saying, may give him what he wants. Is that a good
yeah,
evaluation?
yeah. I'd say that that's pretty good. Another thing that happened here is the uh, the platforms, especially the housing plans that were released with the different parties. The conservatives waited to release their party until the final week because of course they did. And
Yeah.
I went in, I looked at the three different housing plans for the Liberals, the Conservatives, and the NDP. The Conservative plan is bonkers. It's basically just to completely take, I don't remember what the term was, but it's like a GST or something. It's basically something that would completely wreck the ability of Canadian homeowners to benefit from their housing. It would basically just ubercharge the transfer of wealth from the poor to the wealthy. Is literally what it was. It was literally just stealing from
Sounds mega.
the underserved to give to the wealthy. Yeah, absolutely. It's exactly out of that playbook. The Liberal Party's plan was better, which is they're going to loosen the, again, I forget what it was, but they're going to loosen it. They're not going to get rid of it. They were going to loosen it a little bit, and they're going to strategically transfer the burdens from that onto the market. So they're going to sort of use the market to kind of level the playing field a little bit. It's not great, but it's definitely better than what the conservatives would do, because the liberals here are, they're putting their foot down a little bit. They're
Mhm.
putting their foot down a little bit on the brakes, whereas the conservatives would just cut the brake line and floor the frickin' pedal. But
Yeah.
the NDP, I think, had the best housing platform. It's not going to save them because they're going to get wiped out, and I'll get to why that is in a second. But their housing plan involved a lot of using public spaces and unused buildings to create affordable public housing. It's
Hmm.
literally bringing back the um, those old housing complexes that they built after World War II to house the soldiers that came back.
Right.
You know where Canada is? Donald Trump imposes the tariffs, then he backs up, then he imposes, then he backs up again. Nobody can keep track of what he's doing. Nobody can trust what he's saying. It seems like China, in spite of Donald Trump attempting to step back, is saying, fuck you, I'm shoving this down your throat because I can't trust you. Is that where we are with Canada right now, or are they kind of going back and forth with Trump?
I don't know, honestly. It's kind of hard to say because they did go back on the shutting electricity off thing, but at the same time, they're playing hardball. It seems like mostly. So I don't know.
Well, good. I hope they do. The problem with the shutting off of the electricity, Canada really wanted to focus on the red states. And if they shut off the electricity, it would affect more blue states. So that may be why they're kind of standing back on that. It's funny to hear, too, that China is trying to target red states over blue states with their tariffs.
Well, they're smart about it.
Well, it's more agriculture. That's what's going on. Because that's what
Yeah.
the biggest thing that China got from us is agriculture. Mostly
Right.
grains, and that type of products. It wasn't manufactured stuff. We knew
No,
that.
hell no.
And
They don't need that shit.
and the thing about it's like going back to when we were talking about the that signing with they were talking about corporal punishment. Part of that signing too was Trump putting some kind of executive order about building factories in the United States. And they're just fawning over you. We're going to build factories, and everyone's going to have a job, and everyone can buy everything here in the United States. And I'm going, you don't put a pen to paper and then factories appear like it's a fucking monopoly board.
Right.
Life doesn't work like that. There's so much complexity in doing stuff like that. And then, that they don't realize it. And that's another thing. Again, simple answers, black and white, real things. We'll just build factories and make it here. Is what stupid people buy into.
I saw a TikTok.
Mm-hmm.
I saw a TikTok earlier today. We've heard about the Nebraska thing, and there was a woman who claims to be a farmer and a Trump supporter, and she says, "We voted for this. We knew he was going to do it, and we still voted for it, and I can't explain it. And it's so bad here in Nebraska that in the next couple of quarters, the entire state could go bankrupt." I mean, that's going to be devastating for anybody who lives in Nebraska, whether you're a Trump or a Kamala Harris supporter. This is what Donald Trump does. And I can't understand why people didn't see it. Everything that Donald Trump has ever done, he's run into the ground. It's failed. And still these farmers, like we talked about earlier, even now when they know they're going to get fucked, they're still saying, but I trust Donald Trump. And I think a lot of these people believe that there's a bigger picture, that, yeah, it's going to hurt now, but it's going to be all better later. And they're going to be surprised because they're being fucking hoodwinked. Go ahead, Jay.
I have a great example of this that pertains to our neighbors up north. The provinces of Alberta and Saskatchewan. Alberta in particular, because they're basically the Texas of Canada.
Mm-hmm.
The United Conservative Party and the Saskatchewan Party, I think it's called. Either way, they're both MAGA fuck parties. Both of those provinces have been in the dirt for ages. Well, as in the dirt as you can be in Canada, because like everything they have is better than ours, basically.
Mm-hmm.
But
yeah,
the resource industries that extract oil in Alberta or that manage agriculture in Saskatchewan, the people get screwed because the companies come in and they take, and they don't give anything back to the people. And it's the conservative premiers that are allowing this to happen, the conservative governments that are allowing this to happen. But the people just keep voting these people in, and every single time their argument is, well, we can't tax the resource industries. We can't tax the resource companies because if you tax them, they'll leave. If you tax them, they'll leave. And that's the whole, and it's unbelievably stupid because these people have bought into this idea that the problem is a lot of people have bought into this fucked up Ronald Reagan idea that the rich can do no wrong.
right.
I have said this before. I will say it again. I will hate that fucker until the end of time. I will. I will hate him forever.
Yeah, I get that. It's a narrative that's been spread for years and years and years, and people tend to believe it. I say, if you don't want to pay taxes and you want to leave the country, see ya. We'll find some other source, probably out of China, and do it there. Everybody talks about free trade. Why and Republicans talk about free trade. Why is it then Donald Trump wants to put so many restrictions on trade? That's the crazy thing about this.
Because again, the idea of trade going back to we're talking about stupid and simple answers. We all know trade is done through companies. It's part of the
Right.
economic functions, everything. People, you buy stuff in, goes to one person, goes to a middleman who's sold to consumers through, Walmart, Target, whoever buys the products from the middleman that's been imported. Trump has sold to these people who can't understand that. They don't get it, because they hear the word trade deficit, but they don't understand how that works.
Yeah.
It's not really even a true deficit. Okay, it's not an issue. But what they hear from Trump is that I can get a better deal from these countries than what we get now.
Right.
They are under the impression that the United States trades with China for everything. We order the goods as a country and then they come in. They
Right.
don't understand the import export business. They don't understand that they're individual companies that do this, that ship it, that sell it. They don't get it. They don't understand the concept of distribution. You
Right.
see, that's complex. That means you have to think about it. But if Trump comes to me and goes, I can fix it because I can make a deal with the whole country to make everything better for you. See, that's the message. The Democrats don't want message. Don't. The hardest thing to fight is when Kamala Harris is talking about her economic plan, okay, and it's like this, and this is how it's going to benefit you. And they look at it, and then Trump goes, "Yeah, I can make groceries cheaper. It's all easy." Stupid goes there
Yeah.
because I don't have to think. I don't have to evaluate it. And same thing with the trade and tariffs. Yeah, it'll make us rich because we're going to cut deals with these countries. But it doesn't work like that. But simple to stupid. Go ahead.
Oh. Go ahead, Jay.
Yeah, I've noticed it's this. I've noticed it's the same with a lot of people that support Pierre Poilievre up north. Is
Mm-hmm.
that they don't really they don't understand how dangerous he is. They don't understand how sinister he is. If you even see old photos of him going back to 2004 when he first went into parliament, because this guy's a career politician. I mean, he is the definition of a career politician. He became
Right.
a member of parliament straight out of school. Basically, he's never held a real job in his entire life. He's always been in parliament. Even going back into those days, he still looks like a creep. Pierre
Yeah.
Poilievre, he has that Elon Musk vibe where he's like you said, Will, on a previous podcast, he's just that nerd with the weird, creepy glasses that you wanted out of your class as fast as possible because he bothered the hell out of you. That's literally Pierre Poilievre's whole vibe, except that now he's wearing contacts instead of glasses. But the thing is that this is what's going to tie into the thing because this is what really pisses me off about all the people who abandoned us and stayed home on the 5th is that in Canada there's such a thing as strategic voting because normally NDP supporters are going to vote for the NDP and that's the end of it. But the NDP hate the Conservatives so badly that they will crater their own party to keep the Conservatives out. And the amount of strategic voting with smaller party members abandoning their own parties to vote for the Liberals to keep the Conservatives out is astounding in Canada right now. It's off the charts, breaking records. And that's what infuriates me about you morons on the far left is you guys have no concept of strategic voting. You guys don't have this concept of voting maybe not for the people you'd like the best, but voting for whoever has the best chance to win to keep the bad guys out.
Right.
That is the most that is the best way to describe the far left on November 5th, or they stayed home. They didn't get it, and now they're paying the price, or they're trying to say I didn't vote for them. Yeah,
There is no NDP for you
that's
guys.
perfect.
There
Does
isn't.
that do these people learn a lesson from this, or do they just make the fucking same mistake next time around?
I don't think the
I
Canadians will, but there's still the fear we will.
Yeah.
I don't know. I honestly don't know.
I mean, that's what I was going to ask you, Jay, real quick, since you're plugged into this pretty deep. And it makes a difference. If Canada goes conservative, that's not good for anyone
No.
all of North America. But my question would be to you, are the Canadians going to pull what we did on November 5th and say everybody's looking good for liberals? Oh, what the hell happened? Is that going to happen on their date?
No, I don't think so. And the reason I'll tell you that is because election results in Canada, with maybe one exception, one that I can think of, are all pretty in line with the polling, right? With the polling. And that's what we didn't pay attention to this past election, was the polling, and it turned out to be pretty accurate to our detriment. The way things are going in Canada right now, the polling is the Liberals are going to get a majority. People are sick and tired of Pierre Poilievre and his bullshit, is what I'm getting. Yeah,
Well, that's
I
good
think
to
it's going to
know.
be it's maybe going to be a little bit closer than we might like. But the good news for Canada in general is that if Pierre Poilievre loses this election, well, sorry, I should say when he loses this election, the way things are going, that's it for him. His career
Yeah.
as leader of the Conservative Party is done, because you don't blow a 20-point lead, lose an election, and come out of it the other side. You don't. Um, it might not even be that either, because the way things are going in Pierre Poilievre's own riding, electoral riding in the district of Carleton in Ontario, he's in very real danger of losing his own seat to a Liberal candidate named Bruce Fanjoy.
Oh, that'd be
And
bad.
yeah, well, it'd be bad for him. It'd be great for Canada. But on top of
Yeah.
that, his electoral district, like I said, Carleton, his riding has just been targeted by this sort of ranked choice voting pro ranked choice voting protest group who are get this, over 90 candidates on the ballot in this guy's home riding to suck votes away from him. So yeah,
Wow.
Pierre
Oh,
Poilievre's in some serious shit.
so
That's good. That's good to know.
yeah, that sounds better than what we pulled off. So that, I mean, again, people say, well, who are watching this, why do we care? Because if Canada goes MAGA, we're all fucked.
Yeah.
We are entirely fucked.
I
It,
mean,
it
we're
would
more
be
fucked than we
ugly.
already are fucked.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and even
It makes a
worse. I
big deal.
mean, it's and it is an important thing, because look what happened in Mexico. They elected Claudia Sheinbaum, a woman, which I think was the best thing, because now if there was any other government down there other than Claudia Sheinbaum, I think they would be rolling over for Trump. Claudia Steinbaum doesn't play games, and I want to bring this real
No,
quick,
no, she
Josh, to
doesn't.
come to the end. Um, she has told Americans who own property in Mexico on the beach to take down your damn fences, because the beach is for all Mexicans, and you don't own the beach. You own the building, but you don't own the pathway to the beach, because like most rich white Americans that go down there, they think it's all theirs. So they've been putting up fences and now allowing people access to the beach.
Yeah,
And
you're
she's
not in
telling them,
Kansas anymore.
yeah, you need to fix this. And she's straight up, because that's been a problem in Mexico. You have rich white folk moving down there and thinking it's America or trying to make it America. The biggest one
Right.
was the lady who bought the condo next to the Mexican restaurant and found out they kind of have parties on the weekends when mariachis and everything. And she called the local cops because it was too loud. Lady, what do you think was going to happen? And you know what they did? In the middle of the day, like 50 mariachi bands showed up and just blew the roof off the place. All
Oh my
right.
god.
They
I
blew the
like that.
roof off the place because they were saying no. And people even from America were helping out this restaurant because it was stupid. It was ignorant. There's one video of a lady who's in Mexico and asking the person, "Why don't you speak English?" I don't know, maybe because you're in Mexico. But she ain't playing with them. They're good.
I'd love to
They're
see
going to
them.
be in trouble soon.
Yeah, I'd love to see a MAGA fuck try that in Quebec, because
Oh, good
Quebecers do
lord.
not play around.
Oh, hell
Yeah, I
no.
I've
I
met
li-
a Quebecois at IPC. She's one of my three IPC friends. Her name is Frederique, and she made it very, very clear. You you do that to a person in Quebec, you're gonna get punched. You're gonna get slapped.
yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Well, we're coming to the end here, and I'm going to wrap things up. But I want to thank Will and Jay for showing up. Uh,
Late as I did.
it's always
Sorry.
it's
No,
no
no,
big deal. No big deal. This is very the Rational Boomer podcast is always very casual, and we just have conversations. It's not a formalized show per se, so don't worry about that. But thank both of you guys for showing up and talking. It's always a good conversation when you guys are around, and I appreciate it immensely. For go ahead.
I got one last thing that should give you all some comfort. That our neighbors to the north are not going to make the same mistake as we did. There is record turnout at the polls in Canada right now with the snap election going on. And when that kind of thing is going on, one of two things are happening. One is that an incumbent government is being completely swept out the window. This is depending on poll directions is what's going on. Or the second option is that there is a referendum on the opposition where Canadians are standing up and saying, no, oh, hell no. And the way the polls are going, the way that the whole vibe just shifted after Justin Trudeau stepped out and Mark Carney stepped in, it's pretty clear it's the second one.
Yeah,
the Canadians are standing up, they're looking at Pierre Poilievre and saying, oh, hell no, you can't come in here. Stay out. You're out. You're done.
That's good to hear.
One quick thing, and then we can stuff on your mind. I started on TikTok because I followed this creator named JC, who does this great bits about the afterlife, and I got sucked into this. And in the 2 years I've done this, I'm 4 people away from 4,000 followers, and that's just insane.
Nice.
So I'm that close. You can find me at Binder38 US at TikTok, YouTube, Binder38 US at YouTube. I'm doing some videos only on YouTube because some things you can't talk about on TikTok because they flip out. And things, so they're exclusive on YouTube. But I want to, if you guys want, I want to thank you because I just did it because for my mental state, and it's kind of cool. So I appreciate everybody because I do get some nice comments and all that, and thank you very much. I'll say that.
Now, Jay,
don't
you're
even try
not
to
on.
Find me. Don't even try to find me on TikTok because the only reason I'm on there is to get in on the lives. That's the only reason I joined TikTok is to get in on the live. So don't even try and find my account because even if you do, there's nothing on there.
I will say this too. You can find me on TikTok where you find me on TikTok. I'm on YouTube, Blue Sky. I'm on Substack. But as I pointed out on the live yesterday, and I did a TikTok about it today, I started a second account on TikTok. And I did that because what I do on my main account, I'm pretty locked into that. I've got a lot of people following me, and I want them to get exactly what they expect every time they come watch. But I'm a creative guy, and there are other things I'd like to talk about, tell some stories, maybe take some questions from people and do that sort of thing. So I started another TikTok account, and it's at Rational Boomer 2, TOO. I got a lot of imposters, and people have asked me, is this an imposter? No, it's not an imposter. That is me. And I will tell you that that after just one day, I got 750 followers. So I want to pump that up too, and so we can keep the word coming from different angles. Listen to Will, listen to Eric, listen to TJ. Everybody's got a good message, and I would encourage the folks that follow me on TikTok to follow me on this other one as well, because it will be totally different than the first one. I'm not just going to repeat the shit. So anyway, thank you, Will. Thank you, Jay. And for those of you listening, elbows up.
Yes, sir.
For those of you listening, I want to thank you for taking the time to do that. I hope you have a great day, and we will talk to you again tomorrow.